everyone! Today I'm going to show you how to make a simple lace bra with underwires. For those of you who are new on this channel, my name is Victoria, and here I share with you one of my biggest passion, sewing. For this project I will take a ready pattern I already built a while ago, and in some of my next videos we will talk more detailedly about bra construction and about different techniques how you can collect your bra. So today I'm going to show you how to make this bra. It is a lace bra without any extra lining and with the least number of seams. I personally wanted to look how this bra construction works. It has a straight bottom edge. It is usually a little bit curved to make a bra more ergonomic, but I saw many times different tutorials with this type of bra, and I was wondering how it would fit my body. So I made an experiment, and there are a few small things you need to pay attention to, but we will talk about this in the process. Now about what do we need to make a bra. For this project I will use elastic lace. Note that the lace should not be too thin, there will be no lining on the bra cups and wings, so it still needs to give enough support. I bought 2 meters of this lace, it's a little bit more than 2 yards. And for my S size it will be enough to make a bra and some panties. Then we will need a stable net. Stable net is used to prevent the area under cups from stretching. I have larger breasts, so I use it all the way to the side bonings. Now about elastics. I will need a band elastic and it can be different width. As larger your breast, as wide a band elastic should be. Then we will need a shoulder strap elastic. Then extra 2 sliders and 2 rings with the same width as your strap elastic. Then it would be good to have a thin elastic to stabilize cup's upper edge. You can also take an elastic made out of silicone or elastic that you would usually use for your panties. The next thing we will need is an underwire channeling and obviously underwires itself. I had quite a trip to figure out what size of underwires are actually matching to my breasts. Then we will need bonings to create support from the sides, ironed hook, as usual thin matching threads, needles for stretchy materials, and a kitten or a cat that will pay attention that you always have an order on your working place. And yes, my family adopted 2 kittens at once. And it was the best decision ever. And basically that's all what you need from the materials. And about pattern. If you are making lingerie for a while, you definitely have something similar, and there are many pattern services where you can buy one. I just wanted to concentrate my attention in this video on the sewing part, so basically like step-by-step tutorial. Here I merged 2 patterns. The cup was from the ready pattern I received on one of my sewing courses. I just wanted to test it. And the belt I built a while ago. You can see the original configuration of the lower edge, I just straightened it up. I positioned my pattern close to the lace edge. It is up to you and to your lace choice how much you want to leave under. And now about seam allowances. I added 1 cm seam allowances to the seam where we connect our cup, here on the top and at the center seam. I added 5 mm seam allowance to attach my iron hook. From the top I need to give seam allowances the same width as our elastic, as the width of our elastic to the scallop edge, because we will see this edge as a decorative element. We will attach it once with a zigzag stitch, fold it and make another zigzag stitch. And from the bottom I give no extra seam allowances. Now about cups. I made 1 cm seam allowance for the central seam, 1 cm seam allowance to connect my cups with a frame, and for my top underarm edge, the width of my elastic. No seam allowances to my neckline, only a beautiful lace edge as in the bottom. And now I need to find a mirror reflection for my frame and for my cup. And about stable net lining. Here is the thing. The lower cut of this lining is where our band elastic will be attached. I cut it on this stage simply straight, but I will change it later. At that moment I was still deciding if I want an arch rise in the center in the bridge area or to make a cross with the elastics. It can be a bad idea to attach our band elastic simply straight, and we will talk why later in this video. Here are all the details, and we will start from the central seam. I make a straight stitch with my sewing machine. Don't forget to make back stitching at the beginning and the end. After this, we need to unfold our seam allowance and press it with an iron. Use cloth in between not to burn your lace. After this, I make 2 straight stitches 1-2 mm from the central seam to fix our seam allowances. Then trim close to the stitch, and this is how it looks in the end. After this, I connect my lining to the lace. I position them right side to the right side and make a straight stitch at the top of my bridge. Then I opened these details and positioned my seam allowance to the side of the lining and attached the lining to this seam allowance with a straight stitch 1-2 mm from the seam. This trick helps us to have a clean finish from the right side of our bra. It is preventing lining from shifting to the front. And again, trim the seam allowance close to the stitch and iron this place. On this stage, I would recommend you to make a simple long length stitch to temporarily hold pieces together before the final stitches. You make them on the underwire seam allowances 5 mm from the edge. And now I will prepare my cups. I need to attach my thin elastic to the top edge. Just give a slight stretch to this elastic while stitching, not that the edge become wavy. You can use a zigzag or a stretch stitch. After this, I fold my cup to make a central seam. I make a straight stitch from the bottom to the center and pay attention to make a smooth curve. Don't forget to make a back stitch at the beginning and the end. Position your seam allowances not to the bridge, but to the sides. I was distracted with my kittens and positioned them the other way around, but it's not so noticeable. Fix it with a straight stitch 1-2 mm from the seam. Help yourself by slightly stretching your cup to the sides to avoid any pinches. And trim the excess. You may also use a serger to make a beautiful edge. I just do not have one and I do not want to. Now it would be nice to iron the seam on a special pressing tool that have a half sphere form. It is possible to use a roll of towel as an alternative. Now it's time to attach our cups to the frame. First, pin the central point, beginning and the end, and redistribute all the rest. You can make a temporary hand stitch to make it easier. For example, my new budget sewing machine I bought for my parents' home just cannot sew over pins. I also wanted to mention that to work with 7 mm seam allowance is slightly more comfortable than to work with 1 cm seam allowance. I would also recommend to hand stitch the lining to the lace from the sides of the wings before this step. Pay attention not to stretch the seam. I made this mistake a few times. And check in the end that the top of the bridge be symmetrical. Sometimes we are working like this. He's snoring. Now I finally decided that I will make a cross with elastic on the bottom edge. So why we should not just stitch our band elastic straight? Well, there is a big chance that in this way the area of the breech could create a bubble while wearing the bra. The thing is that we often have a curve of our tummy that goes under our rib cage. We are moving and bending all the time, and in my case I have a protruding rib cage. My ribs just sticking out. So if we attach our band elastic straight, all of these factors can create a bad fit. Well, I checked and it did not work with me. Here I already trimmed the edge of the stabilizing net and ready to attach the elastics. So how to calculate their length? Well, we measure the length of our edge from the end of the wings up to the central point, and then we extract around 5-10% of the length. The percentage depends how stretchy our elastic is. I usually extract 10%. And then to this length I add from one side 2 centimeters for an easier start and 4 or 5 centimeters from another side to make this cross in the middle. After this I pin my elastics at the center and along the edge, equally distributing the length. The ends of my elastic that are in the center I do not stretch, just lay them flat and pin the end that they do not disturb later. I decided to make a straight stitch in the center, fixing 2 elastics to the main material. And then I stitch my elastic with a stretch stitch. On this sewing machine I can go up to 7 mm wide. On the previous machine that you saw in the first part of this video in my parents' home, I can only go up to 4 or 5 mm. So there I would attach my elastic with 2 zigzag stitches from the top and the bottom of my elastic. Both ways are right, it just depends on your sewing machine. I stitch all the way to the center, and if it would be another material where this stitch will be visual from the front, I would stop at the center and try to make a mirror reflection of the stitch. But here I just rotate on my needle and keep going till the end. The next step would be to attach the underwire channeling to the seam allowances. At the beginning I was thinking to use this channeling, but it has this ugly white edge that will make my bra look cheaper. So I switched to another one that I was leaving for another lace. To cut the right length of the underwire channeling, I need to measure the edge of my pattern. I add 1-2 centimeters tail from each side and mark beginning, the end, and the point of balance on the channeling. It will help me to distribute its length equally. Here I decided to hand stitch my channeling to the seam allowance. My channeling is just too stiff for the pins. I need to attach my channeling directly close to the stitch or 1 mm over it. I start from the center and make a straight stitch 1 mm from the edge, but I do not go till the end. I stop my stitch and make back stitching 2 mm before our underarm seam allowance, so that later I can easily trim it and my elastic can cover this place without extra thickness. I trimmed everything that can peek under my channeling, and now I need to stitch my channeling the second time. But before I made a small hand stitch and fix the ends of the band elastic near our first seam. So by attaching the channeling the second time, we will attach this band elastic permanently, and then we can easily remove our hand stitch from the right side of our garment. Well, everything looks pretty accurate, and important thing that our channeling covers some width of our band elastic. This is the right technology and it's usually pre-calculated in the pattern. It is time of the upper edge elastic. The same way, I measure the length and extract 10% plus 1-2 centimeters at the beginning and the end. This time I attach my elastic wrong side to the wrong side of the lace, so the sewed side facing us. The scallop edge of the elastic directed to the lace, and I make a zigzag close to the scallops. Now I fold this elastic to the wrong side. I already trimmed everything that can be viewed from underneath, and I make another zigzag directly close to the edge of the elastic. It is time to attach channeling to the sides. I will not pin or hand stitch this detail, it is quite comfortable just to hold it while I'm stitching. I stitch 1 mm from the edge, I start from the top, go to the bottom, then I stop, rotate, make few stitches, and rotate another time and go back to the top. So basically I do not interrupt my line. I will make a frequent zigzag stitch from the bottom to secure my opening, and then I just trim the rest. Now I need to measure how long bonings I need. I do not like to use ready bonings because you need to adjust your pattern to their length. So I use the roll and I curved the edge of my boning with my scissors to prevent from any sharp corners that can rip my channeling in future. I cut such a length of my boning so that there would be another few millimeters from the top to make another zigzag and not to catch the boning with a needle. Check and shorten more if you need. I made another zigzag stitch, trimmed the excess, and this part of work is done. Moving on. After removing my hand stitch, I will attach my iron hook. There is always a question how this closure have to be positioned. I just take one bra I own and I take this as an example. I recommend you to do the same. So you can attach your iron hook with a zigzag or you can make a straight stitch instead. The tricky part is the side with the hooks. You can use a special presser foot that will allow you to go closer to these hooks, but you need to use a narrow zigzag or a regular presser foot. Well, in both my cases, my stitch was not very accurate. Now is the time of shoulder straps. The middle length for one strap is around 45 centimeters. It's without seam allowances. But it can go from 40 centimeters up to 50 centimeters. I added 2 centimeters from each side for seam allowances, and I have already put on slider from one side. And now we need to fix this loop with a slider with a straight stitch or with a zigzag stitch. At this point I decided to push in my bonings into the casing and close the center opening with a small zigzag, close to the edge and to trim the excess. And I made another zigzag here. Going back to the straps. I have a slider attached from one side of the strap, and now I will pull the ring through and back through the slider to create a loop. Now with the free edge, I attach my strap to the top corner of my cup. I trimmed before an excessive elastic, and now I just will overlap the elastic with my shoulder strap and will make 2 zigzags to secure the strap, like this. Now I finally decided where I want my straps be connected to the back. The thing is that I shortened my wings before, so I tried my bra and found the best position. I cut off 2 straps, 8 cm each, for the loops. At first I attached it with a zigzag on the bottom of my band elastic, and then here at the top. Then I pull the ring through, fold the edge and make another stitch to close it. After trimming all the tails, this bra is ready. This cut treatment can be found in many purchased bras, but there are many options. For luxury finishing, I would, for example, hide almost every cut, but it's good to know about different variations. Well guys, that's all for today, and I see you in the next video very soon. Bye!